everybody, this is Gina. Today I'm going to show you how to make this little bracelet that matches the necklace that I made in my last two tutorials. I made two tutorials of that one to correct a little issue. But this is one of the bracelets I'm going to make to match it. I have another one in mind too that I will put together and put a post as soon as I get it all edited and so on and so forth. But at this point, this is the one I have done. And it's really cute. I'll show you a close-up of it. This is what the units look like. This is what my clasping looks like. And I'll take it off and show you what it looks like laying out. And then we will look at what it needs. We need to make this project. I can't speak today. Okay. So anyway, this is what the little bracelet looks like. And let's go ahead and see what we need to make this project. Okay, for this project today, you're going to need, it will depend upon the length of your bracelet, of course, but you will need 8 rondelle, and these are the large rondelle. They're 8x6 rondelles. This is a Chinese crystal, and it is kind of a grayish blue, opaque with an AB finish. And then you will need 8 O's, 15 O's, and 11 O seed beads. More 11 O's than you will need 15 O's or 8 O's. My piles don't look quite right, but quite a few 11 O's. Then you will need 14 4x3 rondelle crystals. And you will need, and this of course is a Chinese crystal, and it's half clear, half blue. And then a button of some sort. I found this little flower button that is really cute, and I thought I would use it. I bought these at Hobby Lobby in a little package in the sewing section. You can find all kinds of really cute buttons at Hobby Lobby and Michael's if you look, and Joann's too. If you look in the sewing sections, you will find really cute ones. This one's a little blue flower with a little rhinestone in the center, and I'm going to use it today for my clasping. You will also need some thread. I'm going to use the 10-pound Nanofil. 8-pound Fireline will work just as well. I like to use a little bit heavier weights when I'm using larger crystals, so an 8-pound Fireline or 10-pound Nanofil will work great. And you will need an English beading, well, not necessarily an English beading needle, but you'll need a size 10 beading needle, or a 12 may also work, but we're using heavier weights, so a 10 would be the best. And then you will thread 2 wingspans of your thread onto your needle, and we'll get started. Okay, so we're going to start this project by picking up an 8-0, an 11-0, an 8-0, and an 11-0 onto our needle, like so. And we're going to bring this down to the end of our thread. You don't have to leave a long tail, but enough to hold on to and to assure that it's not going to slip through your beads. Now, go back through the first 8-0 that you added onto your thread, and just the 8-0 from the tail side, and pull your beads into a little circle like this. Let's get closer here. I know you can't see my beads, but my camera, I can't focus on the beads and on what I'm doing at the same time. It doesn't work well. So now we're going to sew back through all of these beads on our little unit we just created to secure it. Don't pull your thread real tight or you'll pull it right out of your beads. So just pull it gently. Hold on to the beads with your thumb and finger so that they stay nice and secure, and just sew all the way around. Now I'm going through the bead where my tail is. I'm just going to ignore the tail and pull. Like so. Now we're going to go into this. We're coming out of the 11-0. This is my tail. This is my working thread. I am now going to go down into the 11-0 on my working thread side. Right here. And pull. And pull it right out of the camera. There we go. So now I'm coming out of this little 11-0 seed bead right here. Let me turn this back around. And I'm going to pick up 6 11-0 seed beads. Like so. And then I'm going to pick up a large rondelle. I'm going to kind of drop those down and then pick up 6 more 11-0 seed beads. So you'll have 6 11-0s, a large rondelle, and then 6 11-0s on your thread. Like so. I'm going to drop these down to the first little unit I've made. Like so. So now I'm coming out of this 11-0 on this side. I'm going to go into the opposite side and pull these beads down like this. Now we are going to sew around all of the beads we just added to secure them. So I'm going to go up all 6 of these. Ensure that you don't miss any because it will make your beads lay really funny if you do. So pull that up like so. Then go into the rondelle. And then go into the 6 11-0s on the other side, like this. I'm going to stop saying like so because someone's going to call me on it. I know they are. So, I said so again. Ha ha ha. Then go into this 11-0 seed bead right here that you're attached to. So what you will have something that looks like this, a little unit of right angle weave with the 2 8/0s on either side and with a loop attached to the 11-0, like this. Now we're coming out of the 11-0 that we're attached to. We're going to sew up the 6 11-0s on the same side that our thread is coming out. And don't miss any, like I said before. Now you want to make sure that your thread has good tension but not tight tension, because if you pull it too tightly these beads are going to bunch. We don't want them to bunch, we want them to lay pretty just like this, but we don't want any slack either. So you shouldn't be able to see any slack or any thread in between your beads, but you don't want them to bunch together. You want them to lay nice and neat. And then go up through the rondelle crystal. And now you will pick up 6 11-0 seed beads. Actually, 7. You will pick up 7. Altogether, we'll pick up 13. So let's just say pick up 13 seed beads. That'd be easier. So pick up 13 11-0 seed beads onto your needle. I have 2, 4, 6, 7. So I'm going to pick up 6 more. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 and 7 make 13. So I've got 13 11-0 seed beads. I'm coming out of this side. I'm going to go into the opposite side of the rondelle and pull these beads down. Then I'm going to sew back through all of these beads just to ensure that they are secure. So I went through one side, I'm going to go through the other side, and then go through the rondelle, like so. So I just sewed through all of the beads in my loop that I'm creating. And again, make sure your tension doesn't bunch your beads too much, and then come up through 7 beads. So I've got 4 here. I'm going to go up through 3 more and exit the 3rd one. So I am exiting the 7th bead in the loop, like so. Now I'm going to pick up an 8/0 seed bead, an 11/0 seed bead, and an 8/0 seed bead, like this. I'm coming out of this side of the 7th 11/0. I'm going to go into the opposite side of it, and pull this new little unit down, like this. And then I am going to sew through this entire little unit to secure it. Once I get to my connecting bead, I will check my tension, make sure everything's good, and then I'll sew up this 8/0 and into this 11/0 and exit. So we're going to go into the 8/0 and then into the 11/0. I just turned it over so that it's more accessible to my hand, like this. And then we're going to do exactly the same thing. We're going to pick up 6 11/0 seed beads onto our needle. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, like this. Then a rondelle, then a rondelle, and then 6 more 11/0 seed beads. So you will have onto your thread 6 11/0s, a rondelle, and 6 11/0s. Bring it down. You're exiting this 11/0 here, going to the opposite side, and pull them into a circle, like this. I'm going to turn it over, and I'm going to sew through all the beads again. Through the rondelle, and then through all the beads on this side. Seems redundant, but it's very important to secure it, make it neat, and make it strong. Go through the connecting bead again and all the beads on the other side of the connecting bead. So I've gone through the connecting 11/0 and about 4 of the beads here. I'm going to go through 2 more so that I don't miss any of the beads. And straighten out my tension, make sure my beads are bunched. Then I'm going to come through the rondelle, like so, and I'm going to pick up 13 11/0 seed beads. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. I'm going to count them just to make sure I have 13. It's important to have them right. 2, 6, 8, 10. Yep, I have 13. So I'm going to bring these down to the rondelle, and then I'm going to go through the opposite side of the rondelle. And then I'm going to sew around all of these beads again, just like we've been doing. And then we will sew up to the 7th bead and exit. So I'm going to go through 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Well, actually I've got 5 on my needle here. So I'll pick up 2 more and exit the 7th bead. Then we will pick up an 8/0 seed bead, an 11/0 seed bead, and an 8/0 seed bead. We're coming out of this side of the 7th bead. We're going to go into the opposite side of that bead and pull the beads down. Now we're going to sew around this unit and secure it, and then we will do exactly the same thing. Add 6 beads, a rondelle, 6 beads, go through the rondelle again, and then secure, of course, and then do the other side by picking up 13 beads and then making our right angle weave unit through the 7th bead. Continue doing that until you have 7 units. or to the length that you want your bracelet to be. Each unit is about an inch. I will show you on the board here. Each unit is at an inch exactly. So I'm making mine 7 because my wrist is about 7 inches. Now my embellishments are going to shrink down my bracelet a little bit, but my clasping is going to add some back. So I'm making it 7 so that after it shrinks down, I will still have enough room to put my bracelet on. So you'll have to judge that according to the length you want for your bracelet. I'm making mine 7 units. Now, I'm going to put the clasping end on, and then we're going to proceed with our embellishments. So I'm coming out of my very last 11-0 here. After making my unit, my loop on this side of the rondelle, I made my little right angle weave unit just like we've done on each unit, and then sewed around it, secured it, and now I'm coming out of the 11. So I'm going to pick up 2 11-0 seed beads and an 8-0, and then my clasp, which is my button, and bring them down. Now my shank is just the right size for the 8-0 seed bead to serve as a stopper. If your shank is bigger, then you may need to modify the beads that you use in that area. If it's smaller, then just don't use the 8-0, use 11-0s. So then, after I've gone through my clasp, I'm going to pick up an 8-0 and 2 11-0s. And then I'm going to go through the opposite side of the 11-0 I'm exiting from and bring this down. This is what this should look like. Now I'm going to sew through my entire clasping, through the 11-0s, the 8-0, the clasp, the 8-0, the 11-0s, and the connecting bead several times to secure my clasp or my button, whichever you'd like to call it, and then we'll be back. So I've secured my clasping, and now I am coming out of the 8-0 seed bead here underneath my connecting bead. So I went through and secured the button very well, and then I was in the 11-0 seed bead that I was connecting to, then I sewed into the 8-0 seed bead here. So now, from this point, through this 8-0 seed bead, we will start our embellishments. And the way we're going to do that is we're going to pick up 2 11-0 seed beads onto our needle. We're going to skip the first 2 in the loop right underneath the 8-0 seed bead. And then we're going to go into the next 4. So I'm skipping 2 here, going through 4. Now we're going to sew into the next, we're just going to go over the divide, and we're going to close it by going into the next 4 seed beads and exiting. Like so. So that will pull the division closed. It will start to curve the bracelet a little bit, but when we do the other side, that will correct that. So we're going to pick up 2 11-0 seed beads, like so, and then we're going to go into the next 8-0 seed bead. So we're skipping these 2 in the loop, and we're going into the 8-0. And as we place that, we'll pull the division shut over the rondelle. Don't pull it so tight that you bunch all of your beads in the loop, just enough to where you close that nice and neatly. And then you will pick up 2 more 11-0 seed beads. You'll skip the first 2 in the next loop, go through the next 4, and pull the beads into place. And then very gently tighten your tension so that everything is nice and neat, and then sew into the next 4 beads, exit the 4th bead. I've got tangled here, and pull your thread through, pull the division shut over the rondelle. It won't stay shut until you do your next couple beads, but make sure that it's closed as much as you can get it, and then pick up 2 11-0 seed beads and go into the next 8-0. And we will continue doing this, placing the 11O seed beads all the way down the entire length of the bracelet. When we get to the end, we will do our next step. Okay, so I have finished my embellishment all the way to the end here. I have my last 2 beads to put in. I'm coming out of the 4th bead in my loop. I am going to go into this 8O seed bead on the end where we began our piece. And on this one, I'm going to pull my 2 beads up, and then I'm going to sew around this entire unit because it's still a little weak because we didn't tie a knot there. So I'm going to go up into this 11O seed bead here, and I'm just going to sew around the entire unit. And as I do so, before I go into the next bead, I'm going to make sure this embellishment is tight. Now you can see my bracelet is curving a little bit. That's okay. Don't pull it so it's curving a lot, just enough to where you have all of your beads looking pretty good. The other side, when we do the embellishment, should straighten this out. But if you pull it too tightly, it's not going to. It's just going to be a mess. So just make sure you have no slack and everything looks as good and tight as it should without bunching anything. And then, so now I'm coming out of this 11O here. I'm going to sew into this 8O. And then I'm just going to sew into this 11O here. I'm just going around this last unit one more time just to ensure that it's not going to fall apart as I work through it. So I'm going to go into this one here, go into my top 11O here, and then I will go through this 8O and exit right here. And this is where I will begin the same embellishment down this side. So we will pick up 2 11O seed beads, and then we'll go into the 4th 11O on the loop, skipping the first 2, and go into the 4th go into the 3rd bead and then through 4 beads. So we're just skipping 2 on the loop. Then we're going to sew through the little division here and exit the 4th bead, and then pick up 2 11O seed beads and go into the 8O. And we will continue doing the exact same embellishment. Pick up 2 more 11Os, skip 2 on the loop, go into the 3rd bead, and then go through 4 beads and pull your thread through. Make sure that things are closing up and looking good. See how that finishes that off and kind of straightens everything up. Continue all the way down, keeping good tension but not extremely tight tension until you get all the way to the end of the bracelet, and we will be back. Okay, I have finished my entire embellishment on this side. Now, well, except for my last 2 beads. I am coming out of the 4th seed bead here. I need to pick up 2 seed beads and go into this 8O underneath my clasp here in the original right angle weave unit here. And make sure everything looks the best I can possibly get it. Some areas the beads pop up a little bit. That's just kind of the nature of the beast, but you want to get it as neat as you possibly can. And then we're going to go into the 11O. So I'm coming out of this 8O here. Let's get close. I'm coming out of the 8O here in this little unit of right angle weave. I'm going to go into the 11O that we attached our clasp to right here. I'm going to turn this around just so I can handle it better. Okay, so I'm coming out of the 11O seed bead where I attached my clasping to. I'm going to sew down into the 8O right underneath it. And then I'm going to sew into the little middle 11O here. So basically we've just traveled around the 8O seed bead, the 8Os and 11Os in the right angle weave here. And now we're going to go to the inside of our embellishment and add another embellishment. So I'm in the 11-0 here. I'm going to sew up into these two 11-0s here and exit right here. So these are the two 11-0s we skipped over when we started our outside embellishment. Now we're coming out of the second bead in the inside loop portion here of the two that we skipped over. We are then going to pick up a 15-0 seed bead, a small crystal rondelle, and a 15-0 seed bead, like so. Now we're coming out of this bead right here. We're going to skip over to across the little V shape and go into the second bead on the inside two we skipped. Go into that bead right there. And go up through the connecting 11-0 and pull this little crystal down like so. Now we're going to sew into the two 11-0s we started in here and pull. Don't pull it too tightly, let it kind of ride up above the beads a little bit, the crystal. And then go ahead and sew through all of the beads on the outside. Exit the last one before the two you skipped in the loop here. And then go into the two you skipped and the connecting bead in between them here, and then into the other two that you have skipped in your original unit. Right there. Pick up a 15-0 seed bead, a small rondelle crystal, and a 15-0 seed bead. Like so. You will go from this 11-0 into the opposite 11-0 and into the bead connecting the two right here. And pull your crystal in very gently. Like I said, they'll kind of ride up above, and that's okay. That's what we want. And then we will sew into the 8-0 here. We're coming out of the connecting 11-0 in the middle. We'll sew into this 8-0 here. Get you real close so you can see. So we're coming out of this 11-0, we're going into this 8-0. This is in our original unit of right angle weave between our loops. And then we'll go into the connecting 11-0 here. So into the two that we skipped over in the original loop here. And exit. Whoops, I just pulled my needle out. Let me do that again. So into these two here. And exit. Pull the thread gently. You don't need to pull it real tight. It'll just kind of throw everything out of whack if you do. Pick up a 15-0, a small rondelle crystal, rondelle that is, and a 15-0. You're going to go from this bead to this bead in your original two that you skipped in your loops, and into the connecting bead in between, if you can get all three at once. If not, you'll have to go back, like so. Pull it through. Oops, got my thread tangled. Hang on a second there. Like so. And that's what that should look like. You're going to continue. We will now sew into the two on this side here. Then we will sew into the outside beads all the way down to where we can access the next beads on the inside again. And do the same thing, sewing down around each unit, placing two rondelles on either side of the big rondelle, like so. Just continue. You will go through these two and these two on this side, because you have to get to this side in order to cross over to that side. So let's do one more. Just on the far side, it's a little bit different than on this side. So I have an extra bead here. So I want to exit the bead here right before the two I skipped, go down into the two I skipped, go into the connecting bead in between the two that we skipped, and then go into the other side of the two we skipped. And then we're set up to where we can put our rondelle across by picking up a 15-0, rondelle 15-0, go into your unit, sew around, and continue putting your rondelles in until you get to the end of the bracelet, and we'll be back. Okay, so I finished putting all my smaller rondelles next to my big rondelles, and then I sewed around the last unit of right angle weave, and I'm coming out right where my tail is. I've cut my tail off some. I don't want to cut it completely down and burn it down because I don't want the blob to block my beads right yet. I'll burn it down after I'm finished. Now I have lost an entire inch of length doing my embellishments. So it squished this down. It was 7 inches long. Now it's just barely 6. So I am going to make a little extension before I make my loop to go around my button to compensate for that loss of length. So what I'm going to do is I am going to pick up 2 11-0 seed beads and a large rondelle, like so. I'm going to drop this down. And then I'm going to pick up a series of seed beads that will go around my button. Now this depends upon how large your button is, will depend on how many seed beads you pick up. So I'm just going to pick up a series, and then I will show you how to test it. As soon as I have enough 11-0 seed beads on my needle that I think will go around, I'll show you how we'll test that. Okay, so I have picked up quite a few 11-0 seed beads. I didn't even bother to count because everybody's going to have to individualize according to the button they have how many beads they pick up. So I've just picked up a bunch. It looks like perhaps it'll be big enough to go around my flower. I'm going to go into this rondelle bead right here. And I'm going to hold this all together tightly by wrapping this around my finger several times. Well, maybe. And hold it as tightly as I can so that the beads don't move. And then I'm just going to slide the flower over it. Now that works really well. Now I'm going to put it around my wrist too and just make sure that it's not too big or too small. And that's going to be just about right. So what I'm going to do now is I have gone back through my rondelle, but now I have to pick up 2 11-0 seed beads and go back through my connecting 11-0 on my bracelet. So I came out of this side, actually, my thread is on the wrong side, so I'm going to pick up 2 more and go into the side of the 11-0, the opposite side that I'm coming out of. So I'll go into this side here of this 11-0 and pull this all down. Now this is what this is going to look like. Let me give you a close-up. Like so. And we're going to sew around this entire series several times. So you're going to have to go through these 2 11-0s, the rondelle, all of your beads, making sure not to miss any or they'll pull strange. Go back through the rondelle, back through these 2 beads, back through the connecting bead. And do that a couple of times. Okay, so I have sewn around and secured my loop. I actually shortened it a little bit offline, or off camera. It was way too big, so I shortened it down, hopefully not too much. But now I have secured the loop by sewing through my entire series of beads here several times. And that's my little tail, get it out of the way. And now I'm coming out of the little side beads here. Get it close so you can see. I'm going to sew into this bead here, the connecting bead again, pull my thread through. Now I'm going to sew through this unit of right angle weave, the original unit of right angle weave. I'm going to catch a couple of half hitch knots, then I'm going to sew down into a couple of these beads on my work, and I'm going to cut my thread off and burn it down. I'm not going to do that on camera, but you should be able to figure out a little thread path to go around and just grab a couple of half hitch knots and cut your thread off, and then we'll be back to see the finished product. Okay, so I sewed around and cut off my tail and my working thread and burned them down with lighters, and this is what the finished product looks like. It's really rather cute. And see how well it goes on my wrist. I was able to compensate for the loss of length with my clasping by adding that rondelle and the two little 11 O's underneath that, and get back off just a little so you can see. That's what it looks like. We'll get a little bit closer so you can see it better. There. That's what it looks like on the wrist. And that's my clasping. It's really rather pretty. I hope you've enjoyed this tutorial, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.